The night air outside the Harborview Grand felt wrong, sharp, and salty, and mean like it knew a secret. And in the next breath, a little girl sprinted out from behind a planter and grabbed the sleeve of the man who paid for our gala. "Don't get in that car," she said loud enough to slice the noise, and his phone hit the curb as the driver froze with the door hanging open like a trap. I'm Maya Brooks, the woman with the clipboard who makes rich nights look easy, and I watched this kid, skinny braids, fuzzed purple tee 2 sizes too big, look up at billionaire Grant Mercer and spit out the words like they were burning her tongue. By the kitchen ramp, they were talking in Mandarin. I speak Mandarin. They said the device is ready, make it look like an accident. Security reached for her, Grant. Didn't blink, he just said, "Nobody touches that vehicle." And then it was blue lights and yellow tape, and a mean little robot nosing under the SUV, while I tried to warm a child, who shook so hard her teeth tapped. The bomb tech finally lifted his head and called everyone further back now. And right there, Grant's face changed. He crouched in front of the kid and said, "What's your name?" And she whispered, "Kaya." And he told her she'd just saved his life like he couldn't quite believe his own mouth. That's how the story starts, with sirens and a voice you shouldn't ignore, and me realizing my arms had decided to hold a stranger long before my head had voted. The detective wanted Kaya's statement on the curb under the flashing lights. I told him no. Grant said we'd talk somewhere warm and safe, and if you've never watched a Penthouse. Swallow silence, you don't know how loud soft carpet can be. We fed her soup and grilled cheese and fruit because knives felt like the wrong energy. She took a bath, came out scrubbed pink, and still flinched when someone moved too fast. And when Grant asked what she spoke, she counted it out on small fingers. Spanish, Mandarin, a little French. "You learn what people are saying when you need to eat," she said. "You know what I mean?" And it landed in my chest with the weight of a stone. A lawyer and a social worker showed up before noon, 2 women who had seen enough to tell real from performative. They asked for routines, not headlines, breakfast, not brand names. And when the social worker looked at Grant and asked why him, he didn't say, "Because she saved me." He said, "Because at 11:47 p.m., a child told me the truth, and everything I've built felt stupid. If I can build something that matters to her, I'm going to." Then she turned to me, and I said, "I wasn't family, but I was the person Kaya grabbed when she shook." And Ms. Caldwell nodded, like that counted, which where I come from is the same thing as a blessing. We got emergency foster approved with oversight, and a stack of forms, the doctor said malnourished and resilient. In the same breath, Grant wrote down vitamins like it was a board meeting, except his hand shook, and we went to a store where Kaya picked sneakers that lit when she walked, and folded the receipt into her pocket, like proof life could be kept. We built a rhythm out of nothing. I drew a schedule on a chalkboard, because order is mercy, mornings with Mrs. Ellis, the retired teacher, who used coins for math and dignity for everything, afternoons for reading and air. Grant learned pancakes. We learned the dog hates blueberries. And at night, when the city hummed, Kaya told me about ramps and back doors, and how listening had kept her alive. I swear, that word turned into a drumbeat in my head. Listening, listening, listening. The world didn't stop being. The world, police said. Rival network. Leverage. Ethan Park, our head of security, sat us down and taught us the vocabulary of careful vary routes, no posts, blinds closed, keep patterns messy. "Are we in danger?" Kaya asked, and he didn't lie. Maybe our job is to turn, maybe into no, and I watched Grant choose presence over performance. Not a speech, not a PR plan, just how many breakfasts can a man make before he becomes a different man. The twist hit on a Tuesday. A skinny man in a ball cap slipped into Grant's office with an old vendor badge. Cameras caught him. Ethan hit lockdown, and I found out there's a panic room hidden behind Grant's bookshelf. I hate tight places. My breath went shallow. while the monitor showed the guy standing with his hands already up, saying he wasn't here to hurt anyone. He needed to talk. His name was Noah Pierce. Not a mastermind, just a man who made the wrong. Yes, too many times, and finally ran out of sleep. He gave Ethan 3 phones, a storage key, and the names that cracked the case, and for the first time since the curb, I took a breath that reached the bottom of my lungs. The adoption hearing wasn't a movie. It was wooden benches and big windows, and a judge who asked what time we eat breakfast. Kaya wore purple, Grant wore the green tie she picked because she said it was lucky. Ms. Caldwell talked growth charts. Mrs. Ellis talked literacy, and when the judge asked why Grant wanted this responsibility, he said steady as a kitchen table, because I'm already her father in every way that counts. I just want the paperwork to catch up then. The judge asked Kaya what she wanted, and she said, us all 3, and the gavel might as well have been thunder. We didn't sprint to romance. Real life is slower and stickier. We made normal where we could. We fought with the printer, lost socks, learned where the good light is for homework pictures, and I learned the part. Nobody clicks for, you can't buy trust. You have to show up, then show up again, when she pushes you away just to see if you'll still be there. You have to stand in a kitchen at 2 a.m. with a glass of milk and promise you'll be there at 2 p.m. And then keep that promise on a Tuesday. You're tired, yeah. That happened. Grant told me about his sister June leukemia, the way grief turned him into a high-functioning ghost, how a kid with 3 languages and 1 hard sentence cracked him open. So when the last arrest turned into a guilty plea, he said he didn't want to build empires for shareholders anymore. He wanted to build doors for kids like Kaya. We launched Lantern House, a foundation that felt like work, not a ribbon, tutoring childcare job, training a pantry that didn't make you sign your shame. The press loved the story. Street kid saves billionaire, billionaire saves kid back. But in between headlines, we were learning bus routes and calling motels and figuring out how to get a birth certificate reissued without a car, which is the part nobody puts on a tote bag. Grant asked me to marry him at the beach house, just us, and wine and a ring, and Kaya pretending she wasn't watching. From 3 steps up, we kept the wedding small, 20 people and a tent with sides that kept clapping. Tom, our security guy, pulled Grant aside mid-toast to say someone had tried a key card at the city penthouse and failed. We didn't let fear steal the night, but I watched how joy and vigilance sometimes hold hands, like cousins who never sit apart. The moment the internet loved was smaller and stranger. A man showed up at Kaya's school fence asking for her by name. Security grabbed him fast, and my blood went cold. Turned out he was homeless in a job program, said. Her story gave him hope. We didn't let him talk to her that day. We enrolled him through Lantern House instead. Housing work, a phone with minutes paid, and months later he came back to volunteer, shoulders squared in a way that looked like sleep. And I watched Kaya see it for what it was, emptiness as multiplication. You know what I mean. If this sounds tidy, it wasn't. There were days I hated how the system bent for us, because money makes things move that should move for everyone. A cop muttered, "Money helps at court," and Ms. Caldwell looked at me like she dared me to flinch. I asked her later if we jumped a line, and she said, "The quiet part, resources don't buy a yes, but they buy time, food, tutors, the kind of stability the system should give every child. And doesn't it sat heavy in my chest, so we paid for other people's background checks and motel weeks and home repairs before inspections. It didn't fix everything, but it shaved hours off someone else's weight. And sometimes hours are the difference between keeping hope in your hand or dropping it." We added one more lantern, a baby named Lila June, early and loud and perfect. Kaya held her like she was holding the whole planet and whispered in all her languages that this was a good place to land, on nights when the baby screamed and the dog barked and the pancakes burned. I thought about the kitchen ramp and the black SUV and how a single warning can reroute a life I thought about listening, and how many times I had called a message noise because it was inconvenient. The last piece I'll give you is a letter from Prison Grant's old rival, wrote about fear and shrinking margins, and how a man can rename desperation strategy until he forgets the first word he wrote. If a little girl had grabbed my sleeve 5 years ago, maybe I would have listened, then maybe is carrying a lot in that sentence. Maybe won't rewind anything, but maybe cracks a door. So here's my door for you, Ms. Caldwell walked me down a hallway at Lantern House last week to show me a bedroom. We'd just finished fresh paint. A pull-chain lamp that clicks because kids like the click. And I asked her the thing, chewing the edge of my sleep. If we'd been a young couple in a one-bedroom with a second-hand couch, and the same love, would Kaya have landed this fast? She didn't blink. She would have been safe, but she would have waited. The difference is time, not love. And I haven't put that down since. If you've stayed with me to the end, tell me this: would you have believed a kid at the curb saying, "Don't get in the car," or would you have kept walking? Do you think what we did was right because it saved Kaya, or unfair because it moved her faster than another child without a billionaire attached? Does our system give second chances to the brave or only to the lucky? Drop your take, your city, your story in the comments. Hit like if you think listening can save a life. Subscribe if you want more messy, hopeful truths, and share this with someone who never ignores the small voice that says something isn't right. I'll be in the comments, still listening.